final round of the Mediatewise competition. Good luck to both teams, and again, thank you very much. And I will leave you now to carry on. All over to you, Jeff.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Happy to see all parties here and welcome to this mediation center. Thank you for taking the opportunity to use mediation as an opportunity to resolve your differences. I would not say dispute at this juncture because simply put, we are not comfortable yet. So it's just mere differences and we hope that we can achieve a solution at the end of this mediation center. So before much ado, let me ask parties to introduce yourself. Perhaps I start with the representatives. Can you introduce yourselves?
Thank you.
Requesting parties, right?
A very good evening to everyone. Thank you so much. I am Emily Carter. You can just refer to me as Emily. My preferred pronouns are she and her. And I would also like to state that I have absolutely full authority to settle on any matter that is discussed here today.
Thank you, Emily. With you?
Hello. Good evening, everyone present here. I am Mr. James Wan, and I am here presented in advisory capacity to this committee.
I think solicitor for this matter.
Yes.
Thank you. And how do I just good enough for this?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And I'm responding to
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Daniel Carter. You may address me as Daniel. For the purposes of addressing, my preferred pronouns are he and him. And I would also like to inform you that I also have the authority to settle on any matter that might come up today.
Thank you, Daniel. And with you is Mr.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Harvey Spector. Today, I'm here as a counsel of Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Joy, which I have to introduce myself at the beginning of the session. I will be a mediator. I believe parties have executed a mediation agreement and have understood the terms and conditions of this mediation. Let me just outline the simple terms so that everybody is aware of the terms of the mediation process. The mediation process is a simple process in which it's a without prejudice basis. It's private, confidential. Every element of what you say here, actually or otherwise, will be within all corners of the show. It should not be disclosed, divulged, or exposed in any manner whatsoever outside the middle of the show. So if it is done, it's going to be used by this, it becomes privileged and cannot be used for the unique circumstances whatsoever, unless and until parties agree to it. Or parties reach a settlement at the end of the conclusion of this mediation process. You all understand those process of mediation?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And let's remind ourselves that it's a voluntary process. Each party come here voluntarily to resolve the dispute, as I put it away, the differences. So it's that process. As we go along this mediation process, each party trying to speak, I hope we use languages which are suitable, convenient, and comfortable, and not rushed. Foul language is prohibited. Please be mindful as you address the party or to the mediator so that you have a respectable process in the course of this whole work. As I said, it's non-disclosure, right? It's until it comes to mistake. Time will be given and allocated to each party to speak and to address the mediator or the other parties if case may be. And then one is non-confrontational. Okay, let's get it applicable. We don't want to turn this into a hostile environment. Okay. Now, as far as my position is concerned, it's independent. I have no relationship with the parties, nor the subject matter of dispute or any other parties related to it. So, as far as I'm concerned, I will remain impartial, and I will not take any position or any side from the party. The whole purpose of this mediation process is for you to achieve an amicable resolution of your dispute. If you fail to do so, at least you reach some form of consensus and move forward. Okay, that's what we have there for facilitate the process. Now, the focus must bear in mind, so we came here with an objective to resolve the dispute which we may have or the differences which we may have. So let's focus on that. when you have that purpose in mind, you will be able to reach consensus on ideally both parties and then achieve a resolution. Now, the mediation is a process of reconciliation of the issues. All right, so let's read the outcome of the entirety of your intentions out of the picture we want to reconcile. It means coming back to a combination of solutions which will with reaching a solution. Okay, so with that, I will not restrict parties any further with what the entire process of mediation is, but we take you through the mediation process by inviting perhaps the requesters to address the matters they have at hand so that then we can understand your position on the issues at hand and can move forward on the response to that application and see where we can find that common ground. All right, and the agenda will reach at the end of the whole session. That's the first part of the whole program of the mediation, after which we reach the agenda of when we want to address the issues. I will then uncaucus with each party, and we see whether we can move forward to the joint session thereafter. Questions about the process? You're good. Great. Thank you. So, can I have Lee, you want to start, or James, who's going to address the matter? Thank you. Let's proceed.
Thank you so much.
That's a bit about the background of your matter, so that you want to move on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I hope that's
That's right. Thank you.
You know, I never thought that I'd ever be finding myself sitting across the table from my own brother, discussing what to do with something that was supposed to be our family's legacy, our family's heartbeat. Mr. Mediator, Daniel, this isn't just a business. This is about my home, about the values that our father has built. Carter's, as you know, Daniel, has always stood upon some basic principles of warmth, of love, of home, of belonging. It's about a dream that began with my father, starting with the very first property that he purchased, the L. The L is something in which my father has poured his entire saving, his time, his soul, his everything. And in fact, you remember correctly, Daniel, it's also the same place that we lost him. So every time when I walk through the L, I can still hear my dad humming the L, making sure that everything is in order. You can see clearly this house, this hotel is not just a property to me. It's a living, breathing living. It's where we celebrated our very first guests. It's where we made our first mistakes. And it's where we promised each other that no matter what, our family's legacy will continue forever. So, Mr. Mediator, when people talk about things like divestment, private equity, exit options, it really twists my heart. Because those words aren't just business strategy. They're also a threat to what this company really stands for. For years, Daniel, we've always worked as I actually still remember the very first day that he joined, 2010. You know, he was full of so many ideas of scaling up, of making more margins, of growing the company. And I admired him so much about that. And for a very, very long time, our partnership has been extremely fruitful as well, sir. We have not only increased the company's profits, but we've made sure that we've expanded, and the hotels that have come up have still reflected very values that our father built the L. However, something over the times have changed, and the conversations have shifted from what makes us special to what makes us profitable. From heritage art, the conversations have shifted to efficiency and expansion. In fact, in 2023, after the post-pandemic, it was the very first time we saw when we faced a dip in our profits after a decade, in fact. And I think we're in consensus when we say that it was painful for the both of us. But I took that as a time to reflect and to refocus and rebuild what our company stood for. Daniel, on the other hand, had other goals. He wanted to private equity out. He wanted to see how we could expand into Portugal and open up new hotels. And I think somewhere along the lines, it was sounding to me as if we were trading our identity simply to scale up, simply to please our investors. I just wasn't against growth. I was against losing who we are while we achieving it. What truly hurt me the most, sir, is how decisions started being made without you. How conversations started shifting from boardroom briefings instead of sibling discussions. And to be very fair, at one point of time, I started feeling like a guest in my own company. I've tried to raise these concerns. I've tried to bring them forth to Daniel and to the boardroom. But somehow I was always brushed aside by the tone that's too emotional or resistant to change. And I'd like to state that, yes, I am emotional. I am emotional because the business that we carry is perhaps the last living piece of my father that remains, sir. I've spent my entire life ensuring that each and every single guest that walks through those doors leaves by saying that I felt a sense of belonging when I left. I think at this point of time, Daniel and I are starting to see the world, starting to see how to approach the business from very different perspectives. He wants skills, he wants numbers, he wants expansion. On the other, I want to retain the authenticity and the very values that my father has built this hotel on. And that to me is exactly why I think we've even reached this mediation process. But I still want to approach this with a lot of dignity and figure out how we can move past that barrier and how we can ensure that both of us walk out of here today, making sure that no matter what the results are, our family value, our father's teaching to us still remains true. And that's exactly why over the next couple of hours, certain things that I want to discuss with you very openly and very honestly, with the help of Mr. Leader, of course, is to understand the company's vision, its legacy, and somewhere along the way discuss where we went from. I also want to see how we can determine a fair and transparent way in which we want to move the business forward, whether that is exiting, partially exiting, moving forward with business ideas, whatever it is. And lastly, I also want to see from personal perspective how we can take things forward. What are the personal boundaries that we have to maintain if we are? And if we do choose to continue together, how do we take the conversation? I think I've rambled on very long, and I would actually like to hand it over to my counsel, Ms. James. He's been a very dear friend of mine, sir, and he'll be looking into the legalese of the matter.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for that opening. I understand where you're coming from. I understand that it's a family heritage. I understand that your father has actually initiated this entire experience and contributed with his siblings. I understand that you walk the road as a team. I understand that you actually you now feel like you're a guest in the company. I understand that, and I understand the fact that you view the business as threshold when you sort of profitable, and that's why they're not saying understanding the different profits. Understand for those that has actually this is caused by the initial post-pandemic test. Right, but that's the brief that you have mentioned. So I hope James, as a council, will be able to elaborate Further, on the business element in which we are progressing on this matter, we just need entirely rest on the methodology of the business efficacy of the case and how we want to move forward with that. So perhaps you can help us here.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to start by, quoting Indira Gandhi. You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist. Having said that, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Mr. James Bond, and I will be Miss Emily's counsel for today's mediation session. I would like to state that my role today as counsel is to engage the technicalities related to the law and the dispute that will be brought up in today's session. I'd also like to state that my role today as counsel is to be here to present in only an advisory capacity, while the power to make all the decisions, like accepting the offer, rejecting the offer, lies with my client, Miss Emily, and she has the sole authority to settle it whenever she needs fit. Moving on, I'd like to thank Mr. Mediator for taking out time to mediate today's session and for explaining the process of mediation so succinctly and clearly, and for also elaborating on the notions and factors such as confidentiality of the process and the need for an open and honest and an amicable discussion, rather a constructive dialogue. I would also like to acknowledge that there is a lot of cultural diversity at the table. So English might not be a native language for all of us. So please feel free to ask for clarification wherever necessary, and please feel free to ask me to slow down in case I go too fast. Coming to the business aspect of it, my client, as she mentioned in her opening statement, we will primarily be discussing three matters in today's mediation session. The first one would be to understand and discuss on the disputes that have led us to the mediation session today. This will include the business decisions, Mr. Daniel's interest in seeking higher investments, going into private equity investments, and we would after we've discussed all of that, we would then be able to, I believe, take a stance on whether to continue this professional relationship or to part ways. And in this situation, if we do decide to part ways, we would then be talking about dissolving the family business as a whole, and then we'll see who will get what in the process of dissolving. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Perhaps if I could just ask Emily to identify the business in which it's currently in progress. Where do you want to see it, and what do you want to do with the business as it stands today? And moving forward, the agenda which James has addressed is to discuss the business decisions we have in mind.
So currently, as we speak, we have 4 boutique hotels, 2 in southern France and 2 in southern England. One is in Cotswolds and the other is in Devon. This is the UK properties that I'm talking about. And in southern France, we have 2 properties, one in Provence and one in Dordogne. So in totality, there are 4 properties. We haven't sold anything yet. There's just been preliminary discussions between me and Daniel. And we're both differing in our views as to what to do with it, how to exit, how to go about things.
Right. Perhaps you can elaborate further when you say the profits. Loss could be, is it a better terminology to be used?
Absolutely. Sure.
Absolutely. So when we look at loss making, we look at 4 boutique hotels, and when you say boutique hotels, then very wonderful areas of the countries in the UK as well as in France. Sure, they have some value to those properties, and where are these losses being interchanged from? Are they from 4, from 3, from 2, from 1, or from all?
So all 4 will make losses. In fact, we were profitable, only profitable for over a decade. But in 2023, we did experience some post-pandemic reflection in our revenues. And this resulted into a direct loss in all 4 properties.
So what is your objective on your end, since all 4 are not profitable in this country? What is your objective in dealing with this business matters?
Absolutely. If I may I'd actually also want to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel. Daniel thinks that at this point of time, it'll be a good decision for private equity investors to come in, or he could also consider looking at a couple of exit options for him. What those exit options exactly entail, I think he would be in a better position to discuss that, because I myself have not reached the position or the conversation where he's disclosed to me exactly what he wants.
What is your position on the proposal of private equity? Since you're aware that you're proposing private equity investments or exit options, I'm sure this is discussed with you. So where do you stand on these matters?
I'm not very open to getting to investors on board, or even for that matter, selling the companies. All there are 4 hotels. I believe Daniel wanted to sell all 4 of them. At least the last time we have had a conversation. I'm not doing that, because specifically out of the 4 properties, the one property which is close to my heart, the inn, was the first ever property that my father had built and invested in.
Right.
So all these 4 hotels have a lot of meaning to me, especially the inn, which my father had invested, and it was his first ever hotel that he had built. So they hold a lot of emotional value, as long as back business value. And I believe that the values on which the hotels are built on are extremely important to me as well. And I want to continue that legacy that my father had started.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a legacy which your father has retained. It's his guidance to the other investments in the other 3 companies. I understand that. Wonderful to nurture some heritage in the family. But to look at the business element now, you've seen yourself that you're not interested, not rather, but what about the exit options? Have you ventured to whether or not that's something you would be prepared to consider?
So I'll be very honest with you. My entire approach, when we saw the dividend profits, has been quite different from Daniel's. Now he's the MBA guy. He's the corporate finance expert. I have just worked with my father for a very long time. And what I'm concerned with is the guest experience, the sustainability, the design of the hotels. And I really believe that the values that my father built this hotel on, which is the feeling of belonging, the feeling of home, that can twist around, turn around everything and anything. Maybe somewhere along the line, those values were lost, and I attribute most of the losses to that change in attitude towards how we started looking at hotels in the first place. So I still feel like there's some saving that can be done. But I think this is the main point of contention that's between my brother and I. Daniel thinks of things only from the perspective numbers, from growth. And while I also echo with him on that aspect, I just feel like things can be done slightly differently.
Great. We'll leave that as a thought at the moment. You assume you can move on and think of it differently. Do you have any suggestions on how that can be done differently at this juncture? Or
Maybe perhaps we can discuss this a little later once I hear Daniel's thoughts on the matter as well.
wonderful. At least that option is available. You see, that's what I'm getting to, so that at least you're prepared to listen to what Daniel's got to say, and we can come to that later.
It's been a month since we had a conversation.
Right. I agree with the thought as we listen to Daniel that, look, I understand the element of heritage, I understand that the legacy you want to maintain, I understand the motion behind the house, which is a very thoughtful property, and there's a need for investments to come into regular your long process at this stage. Think about it as we listen to what Daniel has to say. Daniel, how would you respond to what is been said by Daniel?
Right. First of all, I would like to greet each and every one of you over here. And I would like to thank you for extending this offer for mediation towards me. And thank you, sir, for facilitating this discussion today. I would firstly like to lay down a little bit of facts from my end over here. As you already know, Carter Heritage Stays has been in family. It has been a family passion for over 30 years, that's 3 decades. My dear sister Emily and I have inherited not just this business, but legacy my father built with tremendous care and vision. And I respect that. I don't respect that. And also, I would like to clarify that while my sister talk on the basis of emotional aspects, I would like to focus more on the practical aspects of the problem over here. Um, Moving on, I believe that over time, the customer preferences change, the travel patterns change, and we need to adapt. The businesses need to adapt with the ever-changing technology and uh, the ever-changing conditions that might come up in the environment. And considering the COVID-19 pandemic, when after that there has been a series of processes that we're going to, which I would like to discuss as I move further. At this juncture, I would like to take the liberty of giving a little brief about what I do for this business, what I bring in. For that, I would like to clarify that I'm an MBA graduate and I focus more on the scaling operations and improving the financial discipline and introducing profitability metrics in business. While I respect where my sister is coming from, while I respect the fact that she caters to hospitality design and finance strategy both, which can be considered as the aesthetic aspects of the business. I would like to clarify that I sit on the background of financial aspects and operational tasks that run business actually, that are necessary to sustain the business itself. Further, there was this sort of statement in the address of meeting Emily, and she said that I've been taking unilateral decisions, which are concerned with financial management and also control lack of transparency. At this juncture, I would like to clarify that this unilateral decision making has been exchanged on both the sides, and I would like to give further concern on that as well. Now, coming to the question of private equity investment that has been raised, again, it was also considering the fact that I do respect the heritage and the legacy that is associated with this business. However, as I already pointed out, more practical approach is obviously necessary to sustain the business itself. That's what led me to propose make this proposal in the first place. It was basically that word expansion in the country in Portugal and Spain and increase digital bookings. Because simply I don't want to be on the aggressive side of the digital divide of the world since there's an enhancement in the usage of mobile phones and online sites to make bookings. So I would like to move forward with how the world is progressing. And her suggestion, which came alongside my proposal to seek private equity investment, was outsourcing operations to a global hospitality group. However, Emily tried to oppose these moves, fearing that they would compromise the client's identity and alienate loyal clients. Now, I understand where her concerns are coming from. I understand that she cares more about the brand name, and it seems to me that financials are the least bit of the concerns over here. However, considering that our team work has not been working pretty well for us, we have gone into multiple board meetings and external consultations that resulted in us coming out to the decision of making a sale, be it a full sale or partial sale. So I what proposal the proposal that came from their end as we discussing the business strategy or focusing on business groups and rules while within the partnership. I would like to focus more on the prospective aspect of it. That is, I propose that the sole focus should be on the sale of it. Sale aspect that it should be a sale, a full sale, partial sale.
Right. Thank you, Daniel. Just let me understand where you're coming from so that we are on the same page on the issues. I mean, kind of appreciating that this is something which you really highlighted because I see it in the goals there to be techniques. That's part of it because that's where and coming from as well. So we've got some understanding that part of it. But we also want to move forward, arising from the previous processes. You want you're going to identify customer and travel conditions change. You want to improve on that and you will that's moving forward with business. You're hopeful that you have a graduate, you're looking for profitability. At the end of the day, every business needs to be profitable, but not, you may want to consider whether profitability over interest nature, whether it's hurting. So that's really the way out as we speak about. And also on the issue of private equity, which Emily had brought up just now. Maybe want to explain yourself how this private equity will be a front runner and to allow everyone to understand where you come from with this private equity, this investment. So that's helping. And if that could be a blessing, whether I can move forward from there. Going to investments in Portugal and the same thing here, something which is not in those like that, but it's something outside of your future plans. But development private equity is something, and then the exit option, which we now you speak about full, as opposed to partial sale. So what do you mean by full sale? I mean, we've got core properties here. That's the business, and the company is always this company or the business is core properties. Question. Emily's expressed her concern that she doesn't want to go out to the initial business that are already on this initiative. So how do you move from those which Emily has raised?
Firstly, in terms of private equity investment, as has already been stated, that in 2023, the business which was only going upwards, for 3 decades, had experienced its first net loss, largely due to, as I pointed out, post-pandemic shifts in business patterns. Because as it was already clear that they were not allowed to go or it was under quarantine. Then further rising operational costs, particularly in France, where properties are situated. Thirdly, there were a lot of internal disagreements on investment strategy. Now, if you look at it from a strategic angle, I should me more having more expertise on the investments and strategic parts of business and focusing on the brand and aesthetic parts of aesthetic parts. I think I should have had more control over it, but clearly that did not decide when we eventually came to disagree on every point of contention that was brought forward. And lastly, there was a small expansion plan into there were also leadership concerns raised in furtherance of the disagreements that we had come on to. I'm sorry, just repeat the second issue that
I'm just focusing on what Emily has mentioned this time, in terms of private equity investments and exit options, which is very considered. Because she said actually already maintained that she would like to retain the Portsmouth property, because that's where your father had initiated business, that's why they have to Portsmouth 4 properties, subsequently 3 additional properties. So when you speak of private equity, which I just did understand what you meant by it, that's what we want to do when you say full sale of the business or the properties. So everything on that when you say full sale.
So firstly, I'd like to clarify that the entire purpose behind this particular session of mediation was to discuss a sale, even through a partial. I am not saying that I want the business to be sold in its entirety. I am saying that I'm here to explore this by virtue of the collaborative discussion, that whether it should be sold in its entirety or we can explore options that would lead us to a partial sale for business while we taking some sort of ownership that obviously we discussed the course of the discussions. Coming on to the point of the private equity investment, obviously, this is my business, so I'm running it and outside person for the last 30 years. That means something to me. Obviously, I'm an emotional student, I'm not going to be very spiritual, and I focus more on the practical aspects of it. Proposing a private equity investment was only one of my ways in which I wanted to expand the business. That obviously would have, helped us get more get a higher market presence, and obviously to cover the losses that we had faced, and then after we got into profits, it was solely a way for expanding the business. However, owing to a disagreement towards my proposal, and then after a lot of disagreements after that forward, which led us to a very decided of completing the business, and it has we finally came to the conclusion that this business is something that's not sustainable. That is why that was the entire process of mediation that I went through. That was the discussion of the safety in its entirety or partially.
Thank you very much. Perhaps, Harvey, add something to this as on the legal perspective of the client's position.
So thank you so much for that. First of all, I will extend my gratitude to everyone present here. And thank you to Mr. Mediator for agreeing to guide us through this mediation. And also to Emily and her council for taking the time to be here today. We all carry significant responsibilities, and it is no small thing that we all are coming around the table at 3 in the afternoon on a weekend. I would like to quote the words of Nelson Mandela, who said, "Courageous people do not fear forgiving for the sake of peace." In that spirit, my client, Daniel, comes before you today with an open hand, not to fight, but to find a constructive solution that allow both parties to protect their legacy of Kathia heritage stays, while also addressing important questions about its future. As you know, I'm the counsel of Daniel Carter. My role here is advisory in nature to assist Daniel in the process and to advocate his interest while also respecting the collaborative nature of mediation. We are here today not to deepen divides, but to explore where the common grounds can be reached. For clarity, I would like to briefly outline Daniel's interest in the mediation. My client would be inclined in discussing a full of Cartier's heritage states, secondly, exploring options that lie within the ambit of partial sale. Uh, 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 if I were to capture Daniel priority, two words, they would be fairness and resolution. We are an open mind and willingness to listen. My client's hope is today's discussion allow both the parties to move forward with clarity and respect and to arrive at a resolution that honors their father's legacy while also setting the business on a sustainable path. With that, I will pause here and look forward to hearing Emily's perspective so we may come together to explore a constructive solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. If I understand correct me as I go along, Daniel and Harvey, from what I understand from their perspective is simply this. They want to continue the business. They want to improve it. They want to develop new ideologies, system operations, and so forth, and carry on the business further to Portugal and Spain. So, on the one option is they want to continue. That's what they're looking at. The second option is that option is not available. You need to relook at business operations. Is either a partial or full sale. Am I correct putting it in a nutshell? Okay, that's where we're coming from. Emily's position is simply this: she wants to retain as much as possible the business because it's heritage and legacy that originated from her father rather. So that's her position on it. So what I'm going to do now is that, as I said, take both your interests in heart. I like to set down some agenda as to where we do this, so that we narrow down where we are moving into this mediation process, and we focus on those issues. And if we can have a consensus on that, perhaps I can then move from there. So I understand that on both sides, there's an element of wanting to retain the business. All right? The process of retaining the business is an issue. One part, Emily is saying that she wants to retain the Cotswold, the elms, as one of the fundamental elements to the whole thing. And on the other hand is that you want to introduce systems, operations, and perhaps one of the better ones, product investment to enhance business. So these two can be amalgamated into one. And can I just suggest that for the first agenda, we look at the maintenance of the business, all right, as one of its issues. Is that okay with both parties, or is there something you want to address to that?
I think that's okay. We can. I would like to again just clarify this one thing, if I may. The entire reason behind this mediation session was to discuss a sale of the business, because I think both of us had come to a conclusion that both of us cannot alongside with each other continue this business, because simply it's not sustainable for us to act as a pair, as co-owners.
Mr. Mediator, please correct me if I'm wrong. However, I believe in my client and I just discussed that you said that the first agenda, from what you've gathered from Mr. Daniel and his counsel and from Emily, is that we should first discuss about the maintenance of the relationship. So I believe we should do that. My client, sorry, my client believes that we should talk about maintenance of the business first. Within that, we could figure out as to where we went wrong, where Mr. Emily and where Mr. Daniel went wrong, because it is extremely imperative to my client that we discuss that is because it's not just a business agreement that we offer here. I mean, there are also emotional aspects that are attached to this business. I believe once we got that out of the way, even if we want to talk about the dissolvement, it will allow both the parties to discuss the dissolvement option or the exit option in a more holistic and in a more in a way that is based on good faith.
Thank you. I I understand what you're saying, that you're looking primarily at the sale of the properties or the business. Which one are you looking at?
The sales, because as
Sale of the properties.
right.
Okay, so let me take it through with you. So, in other words, I mean, as far as you're concerned, it may not be all the properties that you want to sell. You want to, which means you want to retain the business of the remaining properties. So, if you take it at that, that's so. The first agenda could be concluded maintaining the business. How you maintain the business is a subject matter of discussion now, whether it includes a sale of property or it doesn't include a sale of property. That we do at the caucuses as we move along. Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. So that is the first thing. Maintenance of business is one of the issues, and how we develop it, we'll speak privately on the matter. And then if you're comfortable, bring it up after the private caucus, then we can do that. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I have in mind is that assuming you're not sound on the business element, maintaining the business element, how do we move forward from there? So that is where I think your subject comes to play, whether we sell the business, which is a company, or dissolve the business as the company, or we sell the entire properties which we have, which is the 4 properties first, and then we move forward with that. All right. So that's where I'm coming on the perspective of sale. All right. Is that okay? We put it at the second as option, second matter for consideration. First being primary one to retain. Second one is to go into the sale of the business order in absolute terms.
So if I may ask a clarification question, the properties will be included under the head business itself, right?
Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I'll put it as a sale of the business, which is the company, or dissolution of the company, as it may be, and or the sale of the properties. Okay. Are there any other items you want to consider in this agenda before I break up for the private conferences?
I would like to share something.
Sure.
Considering that the brand and the aesthetics of the brand and the heritage and the values that the business inherits, the business emanates. She's the one who's very concerned about those parts. I think I'll be open to exploring options that fall within the ambit of a partial sale, wherein maybe I am the one who gets a buyout. She's the one, and multiple options that I think we can make proposals on each while we are in the discussions. So I think what we can do here is divide the agenda, the main agenda number 2, into 2 sub-agendas. Firstly, we can discuss the full sale if she's open to it. I also have a few suggestions considering that she's more focused on the wellness of the brand or the value that it exhibits, and I think I have a few solutions wherein she can get to retain all of those.
All right, so let me understand. What I would consider as important here, and when you speak about a complete sale of business, item 2 of the agenda is into 2 sub-paragraphs. One is a complete sale, a full sale, or an alternative, a buyout on your end.
A full that would include us in the business.
That's right.
However, in the full sale, I do have a few solutions wherein she would get to retain, if she wants, if she's open to it, if she's open to the option of a full sale in its entirety.
Okay, and the second option is your buyout,
Partial. partial.
It's a partial sale, in which case you are buying Emily out. Is that how it works?
I
Or
think that'll be the other way around because I think I want to.
you want to sell your sale,
Right, that's right.
your part of it?
I'm more
Yes.
inclined towards it because I don't think the business is sustainable anymore. So if
Right.
that means instead of writing that
Oh,
down
just
as-
give me a minute. I'm trying to understand. So we are in the same framework. So your proposal buyout is where you want to sell your stake in the business.
Right.
to Emily.
I mean, I'm open to discussing all of
So
this.
that's an option. It's an option that you're providing. Okay. Yes.
So I believe agenda should be slightly broader because the solutions or the ideas that as a all of that can just be discussed. Everything should be put down in writing. It should be a photo agenda in my opinion. And also to add to that, if both parties end up deciding that exiting or selling is the only option, I would also want to in fact, explore the aspect of how personally speaking our relationship would continue, both in a personal capacity as well as in business sense. So, for example, if we go ahead with the sale, then are there certain things that we would be restricted from doing, or are there certain things that we would have to keep in mind while doing things along those lines, just to make sure that in the event of an exit or an event where both of us completely part our ways, in the future, no other disputes as such happen.
Sure. I understand where you're coming from. That's good. We can have this as a general agenda. Anything else we need to add in the peripherals, then we can take it from that. Because we just have it's all broad terms for the agenda, so we can work on these terms and then move on and see whether we can find a resolution, common understanding of this process.
I believe that covers everything.
That's one. Anything else, Emily?
Nothing that I can think of right now.
Great. Can I ask the respondents just to adjourn for a while? I will invite you back into the room while I have a private caucus with Emily and Council. Right. Thank you to Emily for being very patient and listening to what our brother had to say. Hope you appreciate where they're coming from. I hope you understand where he's coming from. I not delved to the issue of what he's complaining about mismanagement and so forth, which is coming under, which is come forward strongly earlier. But perhaps we put that aside first and try to work on the positive elements of the business. Because there's two elements of the agenda. One is you want to maintain business because I'm not clear from you. You want to retain at least the office hours. All right. And it's some interest because of the legacy of the father and the heritage and the way you work, so you want to retain some of it. Bear in mind, it is the business as well. So you need to make sure that there is sufficient profitability in the business. So what are your thoughts on wanting to maintain the business?
I completely understand that, Mr. Mediator. Just to confirm, so whenever this discussed over, they won't be disposed to my brother. Just for my own reassurance.
Sorry, yeah, I should have made it clear earlier. This is about the confidential sessions, of course. Whatever it's said, I'm innocent until you tell me that it's supposed to be your brother, then I will do so. Others will remain with us and distracted.
It's very reassuring. Thank you. So, I understand, where Daniel is coming from, but along with this being a business matter, it holds a very emotional gap. It's quite emotional for me as well. All four properties, my father has put in so much effort, and in fact, all of his life been given to the building. The end specifically, as you might have already figured, as you pointed out, holds a very, very special place in my heart. It's very first property that he's bought. But apart from that, sir, I mean, I don't know if you noticed that, but the entirety of the 40-50 minutes that we've been here, Daniel's not even looking at me. I agree that we've come here for a communication session and we're facilitating our discussion. But he's so unemotionally attached to something that has taken years. In fact, my entire my life, my father's life, so much has gone into that business. I don't think there is even an ounce of emotion that he attaches with that business. So he thinks of the world in terms of just numbers. And that is where I think both of us disagree. You're absolutely right. There's one property that I would never let go of, no matter what is the end. It's the property which reflects everything my father stood for. So that is something that I am absolutely not okay with anymore. Along with that, sir, since you have reassured me that, this is very private and confidential between the two of us, our relationship as a sibling has come to the point where I'm not even able to disclose normal business matters to him, sir. Recently, there was a very big Switzerland hospitality company. It's a very well-known luxury Google bag, which had offered me specifically, informally, of course, an opportunity to purchase the French property, two French properties that we have in the chain right now. The offer, or the informal offer rather, that it was offering was 4.2 million pounds. So our relationship has been so stressed to the point where we've not been spoken for over a month now, that I was very afraid if I disclosed this opportunity to my brother, he would simply not think about anything but, in fact, offering the entirety of the chain, of the hotels that are part of the chain to Switzerland group. I'm very afraid, sir, that after disclosing this deal, Daniel will attempt to take over this entire conversation without my consent or without my permission and sell this property to the Switzerland group. For me, I believe the only thing he's thinking about is just, taking an exit, selling out, and parting ways. But I've put in so much effort in trying to reconcile with him, but nothing seems to get through. So it's very disheartening to see the kind of approach that he's taking to this entire situation. I also have been quite suspicious about the way that Daniel has been managing the company's finances. I have brought forward these concerns initially personally to him because I thought that, since we are siblings, we can get this clarified and out of the way personally. But after there was absolutely no willingness on his part to take this discussion forward, I tried to bring it to the board as well. Once again, he's very skillfully defended everything. And he is, the one who's good at numbers. He's able to manipulate things and numbers in a way that even though I have my suspicions, I'm not able to bring them. There is difficulty on my part to explain, not only to him, but in front of the group during the board meetings, and point out exactly where I think things are going. So maybe a humble request to sir is during the I'm sorry, during the rest of the session, just sort of help at least communicate, just not my, but some of my concerns that Daniel has been so actively trying to neglect or just not answer at all. In fact, there has been utter lack of transparency when it comes to him. And from the way that he was behaving, not even looking at me once, not a single glance was given to me. I think it has come to a point where we can't continue working together anymore. So I see his unwillingness to work, and I don't want to be the person who's going to force him to continue to stay or work with me. But I'm very that if I raise this issue in the session in front of him, he'll once again turn into the same aggressive and angry Daniel that he does whenever I try to bring this up again. I've also, since we are being open, I have also gotten offers from a former investor who was quite close to my own father, and he understands where I'm coming from. He understands the legacy that my father has built, the amount of hard work that's been put into uh, raising this company and making sure that these hotels reflect the values that it was built on. So he was willing to fund new ventures, in fact. And the only thing that was contingent on him investing was the fact that Carter Heritage retains the element. So these were certain concerns, certain discussions that I wanted to bring forward to you as well. In terms of,
Can you just repeat that? What was the new investor's condition?
so his condition was that the only time he would invest, the only reason why he would invest, start own line business would be if we would retain the L, which was the very first hotel that my father started. He was also a very, very dear friend of my father's. So I think he reflected the fact that we couldn't lose at least the very first hotel that was built. So, Mr. Peter, maybe what I expect from you is some sort of an understanding and just to help figure out how to direct the conversation forward, because Daniel seems to be absolutely completely unattached to this entire situation. He's so hell-bent on selling everything. Every conversation that we've had before the past month that we stopped talking was also with respect to just selling out, exiting. So I don't know what to do. I'm at a loss of actions. I'm at a loss of words as to what to say.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate the emotions that go with it because it's a family business and something that goes way back, even beyond yourself to your father's legacy. But we have to keep things in perspective as well. So I'm just going to summarize what I understand from what you just mentioned. What I understand from you is you can't seem to have a working relationship or business relationship with your brother. That's going to be an issue if you want to continue with the business. However, you have two proposals. One is to take over the business from French Swiss company over the French properties in Provence, Dola, for 4.2 million. That's what I understand. And I will also have an investor that is prepared to come and invest in the company. Okay, provided that you keep the own. So what is your position if you have the second option here, in which the investor is going to invest provided everything else, we can't work with Daniel. So is there something you can consider? What you have the investor coming in, and what Daniel's position in the company?
I think, to be honest, my counsel would be slightly more better to answer this question.
Sure. James?
Yes, so when Miss Ali said that David a former investor of the company is willing to fund the new venture, what she meant to say was that investor is only interested in investing her own venture, her private venture, not the company itself. So the investment offer is contingent on two terms. The first term being that Emily leaves the Carter Heritage States. And the second, second condition being she has to retain the L's. Those are terms on which, if they met with, then the investor will provide this funding.
Okay, moving forward, when you look at it, so maintaining the business is part of the first agenda is out of the question on your end. Which one are you looking at? Are you looking at the sale of the business in the sense that you're looking at acquiring the ounce so that you can go with the new investor and leave Qatar? Is that the option you're looking at?
Honestly, from the way that Daniel's speaking, it is when I see no other way. One of the reasons to why I was also wanting the first attempt to include this aspect of us discussing when we went wrong was with the slight maybe that brought in this review when we came here was the fact that maybe we could have a continued working relationship. But Daniel just seems so relevant on not discussing the aspect altogether. While the agenda was being set, and honestly, it gives me absolutely no hope with the fact that we could ever continue as business partners at least. So, salving whatever situation that we have on hand, I think the best way to take things forward would most probably be to just part our ways and part of the business as well. But if we are going to do that, if Daniel is deliberate setting, the reality of the business, that one thing that I'm absolutely not going to do, and I'm certain of, is that I'm not parting with the other.
Right. Okay. That's why I asked the question whether you can work with Daniel going forward or moving forward. But if you are prepared to give it a chance, that's an option.
Sorry, a chance for
To work together, add issues, what are the concerns you have now? If you let me know, and you can allow me to express that to Daniel subsequently and I focus with him, then I will see whether that is an option which we can consider. You see, you've got 4 properties in your hands. You've got businesses running. It's now currently making a less profit or no profit or loss case maybe. You've got to consider the business element, not just the heritage that you load. So is this an option which you want to consider? That if you let me know what are the issues that is concerning you, or Daniel, you mentioned a few things about his lack of transparency. That's one of them. His neglect, his failure to see you emotionally, eye to eye on various matters. These are some of the things that you have raised earlier. So if these are the only issues, then you give me permission to speak to him about it and see whether we can have a working relationship, maintain the distance, then I will address it with him. If there is not an option within your confines, then I will look at the second option, which is a sale of a full or partial. Let me look into it.
So if there's any supras working together, I think, and I'm not coming from, I'm not randomly just saying out of the blue that there have been lack of transparency issues. Despite Daniel MBA degree, thinking that I only specialize in hospitality or brandless investments. I do eventually from time to time go through the company's finances myself because unlike what he thinks, I am also interested in the growth of my own company. So I want to take over the legacy that my father has built. And while I was periodically going through some of those finances, I just recently had come across some expense records. And they was frankly speaking looking so fishy to me. When I did inspect them further, what I found was that some of the company's funds have been used for his own personal travel. There have been some luxury purchases. There have been some real estate conference seminars that he has attended. And I don't know why he's attended them because they're completely unrelated to the business itself. So it's just not reconciling because I looked at the books. I tried to find where these expensive items have been bought are, and I can't find them anywhere. They're definitely not in the office space for sure. So I genuinely have a feeling that he's been using the company's funds for his own use. And that is something which is extremely concerning me. But I've just not been able to bring it up to him. Especially considering that our relationship's already so strained. I have a big but if I do bring it up to him, he's once again going to start becoming very aggressive. Very and he does have a tendency, to use harsh words to other clients. So it's just something that I haven't brought up to him yet. But I need to make sure that this suspicion of mine is completely untrue. And I want to get that reassurance so I can think of trusting him again and continuing this relationship forward.
You mentioned that you brought it up once previously with him, and there was no fruitful discussion on the matter. So, transparency becomes a fundamental core issue for you. The lack of transparency is one of it, in respect of use of funds that come to me. So moving forward, I just want to know whether I'm allowed to raise these matters with Daniel. And if on the basis that you are still keen in continuing with the business together with him, and still an option for me, we decide to Daniel.
James, what are your feelings? Should we bring this up in the first place? Your point in it.
I believe, Mr. Mediator, it would be best if you could bring it up, because what we saw right now was that we just talked about mentioning the first agenda, and Mr. Daniel was not even open to discussing it in the first place. My client never said that it was set in stone, that this has to happen, or the business relationship has to continue. But being a mediation table, I believe we are here to have a constructive dialogue. So I believe if my client conveys the same to Mr. Daniel, it would result in him turning hostile, which is not why we are here. While on the other hand, if you convey the same to him, I believe you would be able to convey to him in a way that would not result in him turning hostile, rather him understanding where my client is coming from.
So do I have the permission to raise it with him?
I think I trust James's judgment, so go ahead.
I will do that. Okay, so that we back to the first item on the agenda, whether we can maintain business. So if that fails, we're going to have our conversations with him. If that fails, the next option is on the sale of the business. Which means that we are looking at either the company or a sale of the various properties in that. On your end, as I understand it, you want to retain the house, which means the disposal of the remaining 3 properties. So what are your thoughts on retaining the house? What does it mean? Does it mean that you're going to acquire that part of the sale? The business in which case you retain that, and the others are sold or disposed of, in which case there's a difference, and there will be a settlement in terms of the amount that is due each other. How does it go? What's your thoughts?
I think at this point of time, the element holds such importance that I'm open to discussing any option that Daniel is going to discuss with me, whether it's him transferring his shares in good faith to me, or whether he wants me to buy him out when it comes to his shares with respect to owning the end. Any option, as long as you can ensure that the end stays with me, which is reasonable, of course, because I also don't have unlimited funds at this point of time. I'm open to discuss any of it.
Understand? So because I'm moving forward in what you're just coming up with the best, is that he wanted to leave Carter heritage. So which means your option of acquiring the shares are going to be completed unless you wanted to have any relationship with Carter heritage. So if you're going into the new investor, going into the board as well, the option of retaining the shares may not go right. So where are you coming from? This will be quite clear. And that's discussing with Daniel's possibility.
Because I think being so said that I'm feeling that I have to be as well.
Sure. James, do you want to help me out here?
Sure, sir. So in the event that this entity does decide to accept the private investors offer, we would be, Miss Emily would be parting away from the business, and she would retain the M's. And we recently considered a third party real estate company that assess all the properties. So the estimated market value of all the properties came out to be okay. So the Elms is valued at 1.5 million pounds. The Devon estate is valued at 1 million pounds. The Provence Chateau is valued at 2.1 million pounds. And the Chateau is valued at 6.1 million, 2.1 million pounds. So that gives us a total of 6.7 million pounds, not assets. The total assets worth is 6.7 million pounds. So now what we had initially discussed was that Miss Emily would retain the Elms entirely. She would formally exit the Cotto Heritage Stays Limited, and she would recuse herself from any claim over the future profits of the same. Mr. Daniel would acquire all the other properties. So now let us come to the financial balancing mechanism of it. However, I believe that could be discussed at a later stage when we do dive into the distribution talks. Miss Emily, is that what you think would be better? Or should we discuss it right now?
I think maybe perhaps it would be better if Daniel was not present for this particular part of the conversation.
Okay, can I just understand what your proposals I read was sale? So you want to retain the Elms, so you want to have, you valued the four real estate Elms at 1.5 million, Devon at 1 million, Broadwalk 2.1 million, Dodon 2.1 million, totaling 6.7 million. You want to exit the Cartel Heritage. And what was the fourth one? Just you mentioned was set of division of the remaining value of the four assets. And that you have not come to a solution to that yet, or have you come to a solution? Because what are you telling me now? It doesn't mean that I'm going to disclose it to you. If what you want me to let me know what will be disclosed. So the remaining elements of it will remain confidential at this juncture. So if you have something you want to add to it, then you let me know. If you don't want me to disclose it, you can let me know now, but with the qualification that I will not disclose it to the outside.
Nothing at point. I just kind of point to add. I just want to say with respect to if we do go with the second option, I would want to remain out of the four properties, the Elm only, and I'm ready to let go with the others. Whether that is with Daniel by selling my shares to him, or if he's bringing in a private equity investor, whether it's giving them the shares. I haven't really made up my mind with respect to that, and I think I'm quite amenable to both options.
Right.
But I'm very conscious in my stance that I want the end no matter what.
So your option is you're going to exit the Cartel Heritage, where you're going to want to retain only the house and not respect the properties which you practically have in its entirety.
Yes.
And any value to it is not assigned to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So which element of this am I allowed to speak to Daniel about?
I think I lost track.
Okay, let me put it to you. Let me rephrase it. Because the first part was made clear to you that you're prepared to give it a chance to speak to Daniel on the maintaining the business, so long as I understand from him on the issue of transparency and his neglect in the sense of the word of your emotions on this matter and so forth. That's the emotional element which I need to deal with.
Yes.
That's one aspect. The second part is if that fails, are we going to the sale of the business or the property? It's the sale business. You want to, your option is you want to exit out of Cartel Heritage, but you want to retain Elms, but you're prepared to sell your shares to Daniel. That includes the remaining three properties.
Yes. Out of the three things that you had mentioned, I'm completely okay with you reading to Daniel, like James had suggested, the aspect about the transparency issues. If he's able to come up with a reasonable explanation, then I'm also looking forward to hearing that. So if you could relay that to him, maybe it might sound better coming to you than it would to me.
Right.
With respect to the other aspects, like the offer, but this is complementing back to the offer that was made by the component investor, I would rather that remain confidential.
Sure. That's why I didn't mention in my summary just now. I only mentioned about your option of wanting to exit from Cartel and that you want to retain now and that you're prepared to sell your shares to Daniel together with the remaining three properties.
Yes.
Is that okay that I disclose that to him?
That's okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time. I know we took a bit more than expected, but appreciate it. Reminding you once again that everything here is confidential. Be assured that whatever is said here remains here, except what you allow me to speak and address to Daniel. So if there's anyone else, I will ask you to assist me in the room and I will invite Daniel's email back. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come in. Harvey, please take a seat. Thank you very much for being patient. I know we took a bit of time. It was a necessity because I need to listen on her aspect of this matter. So much as I want to do as much time as possible, I'd like to give you the opportunity to say your piece, and I will come back to what she has to say. So perhaps you can tell me what are your thoughts on the maintaining business? Because a lot of it's been raised. You had she's very emotional. She's very concerned. She's very certain she wants to go into the business and her interest. And she's always concerned about your business so-called plans of the company. So what is your thoughts on this item of the agenda? Can you all have a working relationship?
So obviously I wouldn't have a broken relationship with my own sister. She is my sister, she's my blood, right? But firstly, I would like to apologize for the fact that I lost my composure during the opening statement. I felt like there was an albatross hanging around my neck, watching her being so emotional about things that only need to be looked at from a practical perspective. I would like to point out certain deadlocks that prevailed during the operations that continued. Firstly, I would like to point out the fact that I was under the belief, I was under the impression that I am coming here onto this table today to discuss as to how the sale should be proceeded with. However, the fact that she brought up the question of maintenance of the business altogether that shook me a little bit because I came inside this room filled with numbers and offers and just a few things that we can discuss together to maybe move on to what seems to me practical solution, more practical approach, considering a few factors that have already laid down on the table. But I would like to reiterate for the purposes of clarity.
Sure. I must caution you before we go on this matter. It's a private caucuses. So whatever you say to me will be retained in this room and within my confines. I will not be disclosing it to her unless you tell me what exactly that you are allowed to speak to her about it and address her subsequently. So otherwise, everything retains confidential at this stage. So go on. Let me not hear what you have to say. Sorry, you want to say something, Mr. Harvey?
Actually thought it out the canvas is not my sometimes typically of different can not use my big guidance confidential and about the other party.
No, I was not aware of that. Yeah. So
I wanted to point out.
okay, sure. We try to, but all right, but let's see how we work it out. Okay.
So I'll just okay, firstly, I would like to point out some deadlocks that we arrived at while the operation used to flow pretty smoothly. I think the basic understanding of where the disputes, I mean, I wouldn't really call them disputes, but disagreements that emanated were because she comes from an entirely different professional background, and I come from an entirely different. As I already point out, she looks towards, she caters to the hospitality design and the brand strategy. Basically, the aesthetical and more luxurious aspects of the brand, whereas I sit on the backhand and I focus more on the practical considerations on which primarily the business runs. So, firstly, there's no clarity on leadership while we were continuing with the business. Secondly, there was no routine and maintenance decision. There used to be difficulties. Now, I don't think that there's any purpose in telling you the details because before coming onto this table, it was already decided that we will be having certain discussions regarding the sale and how the roles should be divided. Those aspects. Further, staff. It's not just the two of us who run the business, right? It's just four directors. It's the staff who's primarily involved. It's basically a sort of a hotel chain, if you want to put it that way. Staff itself that influence us to, suggestions to follow because she would say certain things, I would say certain or something different altogether. In which it had come to my notice that a few employees of the business had resigned also because they were not content with how the operations were flowing. Second thing I would like to point out was the net loss that had been bestowed upon the business in the year 2023 after years of making profits, primarily the post-pandemic shifts, and secondly due to the rising operational costs. Now, rising operational cost is something that she wouldn't anticipate it as something that is maybe that would put the business in jeopardy, right? But I would, coming from having a degree in MBA, coming from corporate finance background, and having political knowledge, I would know more about these aspects. But that being the case, still I respect her capacity of being a co-director of the business. I understand that whatever decisions we make should be 50 and 50% each. The say that we should have is 50-50. So wouldn't it be fair to me if I let her handle all the aesthetic aspects and the strategy that relate to the brand and how maybe you can call it the intellectual aspects to it? Then had it not been fair for her to let me handle the most critical aspects of the business in terms of getting investors in? I think I'm making her job easy if I am talking to investors, if I'm proposing certain decisions that would only lead us to, if I'm not questioning the brand, I'm not questioning the aesthetics, I'm not questioning the way it is being worked. All I was proposing is the fact that we should maybe just upscale or cover the losses in order to make sure that there are no further losses, right? Now, obviously, this raises questions on uncertainty in, expenses, and there's also certainty if we'll be able to make profits in the forthcoming years. So I believe that my plan with the option will go scale. I think that's the intention that I came here with to just, proceed on this.
Sure, understand that. So moving forward on this, perhaps I can just mention a few things which she confirmed with me earlier. She will also address it to you. I hear you in this direction because from what I understand from the earlier discussion between the parties, that you were involved in the finances of the company, which is basically the back-end business of the company. And she was in the front of the company doing the management of the overall hotel business. So what I would describe as a front desk business element.
Exactly.
So
Right.
when you mentioned there's no direction, I would have thought there is some direction to send that someone was in the forefront, and while the others you were looking at the back to maintain the progression of the business. So as far as the routines are concerned, what I understand that seems to be lacking, perhaps. One of the things is that confidence level has gone down. From what I understand was that you all had a good working relationship when the father was around, and she was very emotional about the fact that this is a heritage, legacy of the father. So I'm not sure whether you share that sentiments as well. If you do, then there is some element of thought which we want to put into that to see whether or not, you can see a solution.
From my client perspective, a full sale offers the clearest and the most practical resolution right now. And it remains a preferred path also. At the same time, we recognize the importance of preserving the family legacy. We are also open to exploring the structured alternatives as they provide certainty and fairness to my client.
Sure, wonderful. I think that coming from, so at least there is some thought whether and work together in the business. So some of the things that have come out very strongly from the discussions we've had so far is emotional element. I mean, it's difficult siblings to actually agree with everything under the sun. You work together, live together, you learn everything together. And it's always still very reliable. I'm not sure whether there is some factor that is propounded in this business, but it's something you may right that continues to the business. But more on the business element, she was concerned about the lack of transparency, the use of funds, private or your own acquisition of assets and participation and asset agent conferences and so forth. So these are things that perhaps affected confidence level. So how would you think that this could be overcome?
So firstly, I would like to begin by addressing the point that was brought up as regards to emotions. Obviously, I'm an emotional person. Every human has emotions, and losing my father took a toll on my mental health as well. But I believe moving on, I cannot just sit all day and just delve into the emotions, because I don't feel emotions. I don't know emotions. I like moving forward with a practical approach. And over here, I think for this business has been a very successful venture for me as well. Obviously, I share the same values as she does. At the same time, I had my childhood growing up in those homes too. But I think that there should be a certain extent to which we can maybe convey those emotions or let those emotions take over your decisions, the decisions that will help you sustain. What if all the proposals that I'm making, take into consideration the fact that this is my business as well. I want what's best for the business and for her. Obviously, I care about her. She's my sister. But she cannot just only feel the emotional part of me. That's not fair. And it overwhelms me as well. The fact that I am not someone who can just convey emotions so smoothly. That doesn't mean that I should be on the vulnerable end of it all the time. Just because I can, I'm not able to convey my vulnerability as well. Now coming to the point that you brought up, I think that had come from their end. Certain investments that I made. So I would like to clarify that those were my personal investments, and I would also, I just to be clear, I would want this to be extremely confidential. I don't want this to be conveyed to the other party. This is a position that I want to lay out in front of you, as regards my personal life. The personal investments was basically I had started a it was a co-startup with somebody which had miserably failed, and also I had invested in a luxury apartment which also had miserably failed. Obviously, in business you need to take those risks. It was basically a few business decisions gone bad. That is why I am pushing towards maybe a sale on my buyout. That's why I'm indicating so much of that, because I do acknowledge that I am under financial strain. If there is no doubt.
As my client has mentioned, this is why Daniel is inclined towards a full sale, which provides liquidity and stability, or alternatively, a structural buyout, which clear the financing commitments both monetary as well as the financial liability at hand. And my client would be really open to that also.
If I may, sir, I would just like to clarify my position even more over here. It's not that this financial strain is something that has taken a toll on my life. I am not getting affected to an extent where I'm extremely desperate to sell the entire business. I do expect the where she's coming from. I do resonate with that. That is why I'm inclined towards maybe a buyout on my for in that regard, I would also like to disclose something to you. There was a venture capital group that had approached me, and they had made a verbal offer basically to acquire the entire company for 7.5 million pounds. However, now that I know where she's coming from and what her position is, I don't think she'd be open to that entirely. But all I figure out over here is that she's extremely concerned about the ends, the property, the ends, which is, if I'm not wrong, it's situated in it's situated, that's right, Portsmouth. That, if I'm not wrong, we may just be able to clarify what, their underlying interests are basically.
Right. Sorry, I'm still not sure about here. I'm trying to see that I can work something out here. You understand that her concern is lack of transparency, not going to be provided in the meantime. You had investment from co-startup, this is simply personal investment in a music company transfer those. That seems to be out of the entire rationale and how you run a business use personal transfer. That's not judging, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything right or wrong about it, but it transparent, I think that perhaps it was just something that was addressed previously in this legal to see whether or not there was something we can work out to sort of see this element that perhaps there's a lack of discussion of this between the parties, so that if it was such a level of stuff, then perhaps you want to see whether an option that you want to discuss there and see whether you value and continue the business as it is. Barry and heritage responsibility.
You suggested that I
No, I'm not opening up to you, but it's discussed in the past. If it's not, then I will go on. Yeah, because of proposals to other parts.
so in terms of continuance of this business, I would like to open to that.
Right.
And also, I would like to, get something to your notice since talking, we're literally opening about everything. The question that she got about, that the question that she got in terms of transparency, it has had, come to my knowledge that she is planning to launch more wellness retreat practice, possibly using the current company staff as planners, and communicated to me through a former employee that I had mentioned a few employees that I had mentioned. One of them was they were the ones who told me that, this is what's going on in her mind. So he wants to, talk things. I think there's a clear range of fiduciary duties and maybe what you call it non-compete clause when it comes to, if she's considering she's, this is something in your mind, and the breach of her obligations to business as well.
Sure. So this is the now. So I can't understand from you that you're not moving forward on maintaining business for the buyer or the sale of the business. So that's the other option which you have here before you. I see that you're very looking at your financial ability to acquire the shares of the out of the if she do it we did for buying you out on the business side.
Right.
Because what she has in mind, which I to suggest to you, is that she wants to retain accounts. That's the objective. She wants to the three remaining properties which are retained in the company. Then she wants to exit out of the Cartel Heritage Company, and that all she requires is a transfer of the house property, remaining properties retained in the company, so that when you buy her out, that's the only division she makes out of the whole transaction. Is this something which you can consider in this situation?
If I may just take a moment.
Sure.
Sir, considering that there's no valuation of the properties made yet, I believe that it's only fair, if there's a more clearer picture in terms of the cost of each property and the prospects of earning profits related to each property, so that I can give a consideration to that.
She has done some valuation of the property. As far as the property is concerned, there's been a valuation done on her. Perhaps when she comes in, she can address that as well. But the lucrative element of the entire process, both parties want to exit out of the whole process. So this is where you decide what is it that you want. So it means if either party is unable to buy parties out, then it means going to a solution in which it comes into place and the division takes place on that stage. But if we resolve these matters at this stage, in which case, if you are prepared to buy out her, which you do three properties, and then the other arms property goes to her, that will be the position. But the value of the property is something which she will then have to ascertain, and then you'll discuss on it.
Sir, I just want to point out this one thing. Up until half an hour ago, she was the one who was talking about the heritage. She was the one who was talking about the brand name in its entirety. She was the one who was talking about the fact that it has been a legacy. And now all of a sudden, she's ready to give that up in exchange of one property. That seems to be is the one who is the one which is most valuable out of the two. So I think
I think, as you heard earlier, the value of the property is retained by heritage. There was a father that had to farm the process of his business. So there is some element of value in that sense, emotional and some part of the value in the monetary form. So it's something which you want to think about, because if you consider the option that is given you, then we can move forward on this negotiations of immediate matter.
Well, we can, I think we can have round of discussions on this offer. I think I can do that.
Right, because I know brought up many other issues here, which I'm not dealing with at this stage, because the focal point is trying to find a solution. All right, so let's focus on what we want to resolve. So since we accepted the proposition which is made, so can I take it that you are amenable to her proposal for her to exit from the company? All right, and then for her to retain the ounce, and then for you to retain, to acquire her shares and retain the remaining free properties in the company. Okay, right. So those are the terms we agreed upon. So I just bear a moment and then get back into the room. Can we get Emily James in, please? Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, James, for coming back in. Again, appreciate your patience because we do take some time with Daniel and his counsel Harvey discussing the proposals that have come forward. So, as I mentioned, whatever is discussed remains confidential. So, moving on to the next stage in trying to find consensus between the parties. As you need the benefit of proposed to Daniel or the options when it comes to the sale, I can't go beyond part of the agenda, which is whether we can continue the business that we're not going to consensus on that. So if you all agree, I'm going to dispense with that. I'm going to the second part of the agenda, which is the sale of the business and the company.
I'm so sorry, just to understand things a bit better. He's not willing to be transparent about anything.
It's not to be transparent because we move on this matter, because there's no, as far as that is concerned, would you like to address that one, whether you want to continue with the business with Emily?
I think that's right. I think we're getting this game that we are not inclined towards continuing this business. So I just sort of you had a agreement in mind, so I'm for that.
Understood.
Okay, thank you. So that is why I'm pursuing the second part of the options of this mediation, which is over the sale of property. I've conveyed, correct me if I'm wrong, as I understand from what you mentioned, that you want to exit from the company and that you want to retain the arms, and that the remaining three properties in the company are then sold together with the shares to Daniel. I understand you correctly, you accepted or did exist in the company.
I just said that I'm going to listen to it. I wouldn't say that I accepted the
All right, so you're open to listening to it, and that's the option available. Now, am I correct to say that there's this position to take it? Now, the question that arose from Daniel's side is you're open to listen to it. So you've heard. I believe you want to reiterate what you just offered just now.
Absolutely, Ellie. Thank you so much, Mr. Mediator. Honestly, this happening is that you formally but I mean, yeah, there's not much that we can be doing that. What I have conversation with Mr. Mediator, and I would just like to say that the L is something that I'm ready to part with at all. It's the first step that father has invested is essentially everything. He's invested life savings into it, invested in emotions into it. He's grown up there, and he's frankly he spent his last months of life there as well. So that's something that I'm absolutely not willing to part with, no matter what. So as I was discussing with Mr. Mediator, the 2-3 ways which I see this going forward is, since we are co-shareholders in almost all properties, I was willing to buy your share, which forms a part of PL, and give up my shares completely, whether it's to you, the private investor, whatever it is that you have in mind. What do you think about that?
I'm so sorry. She said that you're willing to buy my shares in exchange of, I think there's a
So you could be clear what is it that you want to offer now? Because earlier it was a question of you sitting for the company and retaining the arms, then disposing your shares together with assets. The three remaining assets to
I can see, I mean, I don't even use the correct terminology for it. James, can you please help me out here? Just
yeah, Jen, perhaps you can use those. I can understand that. I mean, considering that it's still with siblings and family.
Yes, what my client is trying to say is that she wants to retain the L, and she is willing, she, and in exchange for that, she's willing to exit the company altogether. When she said that she would buy out Mr. Daniel's share, but she got a little confused. So we want to retain the L, and after retaining the L, whatever she has agreed on recusing herself from any future conflicts. However, the valuation that has come, that is, when we are moving towards dissolution, the valuation that comes up to whatever the properties are worth, we could perhaps talk about the valuation therein and see as to how much amount could be owed by Mr. James to sorry, not by Mr. James, I'm Mr. James, sorry. What the amount that would be owed by Mr. Daniel towards Miss Emily, because she would only be retaining one part of the one property out of the entire chains of properties. Would you like to add something to that?
yeah, just as you're already aware of Daniel, and as I've already specified, Mr. Mediator, both of us are co-shareholders in all the properties currently. So I want to retain the L completely only by myself, which would mean that I have to buy out James's shares. Apart from that, I'm willing to let go of everything, whether it's in favor of him or a private equity investments. I don't know. I think James has already mentioned that I am okay with parting it anyways.
So, in a nutshell, what Emily is trying to suggest is whatever transpires in this negotiation and the sale of the company or business, you're not to retain the arms. That's the primary objective of her negotiations. Yeah. Now, how we deal with going forward is that your valuation of the assets you set off against the elms, and then it is shared between both on a 50 basis, because both of you have equal shares in the company, plus whatever the company's profits are. Am I putting it correctly for you, Emily?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, it came to me as a surprise that about 10 was so disheartened, with regards to the fact that I am not inclined towards continuing this business, but how fast can we make that forward? I personally, I was open to the suggestion because I was open to just listening to what she had to say. But can I pose a question to you? Do you have something to hide? Are you hiding something from me?
What I would do, Daniel, is that let's focus on the issues at hand, what has been proposed and what is available on the table before we move anything beyond that. Because if you go into anything else beyond what is on the table, then we're not going to get any achievement what you want to resolve at this end of the day. So may I suggest that we come back and focus on what she's proposing, as opposed to what her reasons are. I'm not going to delve into necessarily relevant to where we're moving forward to. So let's assist each other. Let's try to participate and see whether it's something which you can consider. What she's proposing, and which is basically she says, I want to retain the arms. I want to give up the remaining shares in the company, whatever that's to the company, the remaining properties. In the assessment, we divided less arms to her portion. At the end of the day, both retain 50% each of the value.
So if you allow me to.
Sure. Yes.
Mediator, I believe that I'm client towards accepting that offer. I feel that it would be a little unfair for me to just accept it without having to have uh, any sort of valuation or amounts on the table right now. Again, as I like to point out again, I'm more of a practical person, and with these emotions, I just don't mix emotions with business. So this is something I'm not inclined towards. However, I'd be open to discuss any other alternatives that they might have apart from this.
Right. I think we have any suggestions, you put forward your proposals to Emily, then we can, she's already made a proposal to you. So you have the counter proposal per day, in other words, I understand, because the way I look at it, which I think Emily's position, I understand you can have a proposal, but on the issue of valuation of the property, this is something which you can be on board today, in which case, which means you accept the primary purpose of what the objective is. You agree to her selling off her share exit from the company, one of better words, then that's one option. The second option is if you agree that it retains the arms, the second one. So the only thing that comes now involves not to a dispute or a difference is the methodology of valuation. What you could do, if that's the case, you can have a solidification in the settlement proposal that is subject to valuation, in which case then you agree to a mutual valuation. Obviously, can't do it today because two remaining properties, one is in and the other two is in the problems and the law. So there's front and you get valuation.
Later, I believe we have already hired a third party evaluator. I think we already discussed. And James also got the breakup of the valuation of specific property.
Correct.
If you think if it fits your judgment, you need to disclose the numbers.
Sure. Are you prepared to listen to the numbers so that at least you have an idea what we met at this stage? So that at least you can move forward. It doesn't mean you accept it. We haven't seen it. What I'm saying is you have an idea what was being proposed so they can move forward on it.
And I'm welcome if they also want to go cross-check over the numbers or get their own third party evaluator. We can always discuss that later, but just prima facie, at least listen to the numbers that we have, since valuation is something that you're concerned about. And
I think it's a good idea. Why don't we listen to that and then you make an assessment after that? All right. Thank you.
Okay. So the M's property is valued at 1.5 million pounds. The Devon estate is valued at 1 million pounds. The Provence Chateau is valued at 2.1 million pounds. And the Dordogne Chateau is valued at 2.1 million pounds. As the total value of the assets comes up to 6.7 million pounds.
So essentially, what I was proposing was, since we have a 50% share in all these properties, I just want to make sure that the elm is completely mine. I'll let go of my share in all the other three properties. Again, like I had mentioned, Daniel, you've come here in different ways. If you want to go ahead, hire another independent valuer and value the same properties, I'm completely open to discussing that as well. Forget discussing, I'm completely open to you actually taking action on that as well. So Mediator, I've already made my intentions very clear. Yeah, there's something that I'm just not ready to part with at any cost. It holds too much of legacy, it holds too much of emotions for me. And I want it to be completely mine. In exchange for that, you can have my share in all the others.
So if I understand Emily's position, if I may just relate that to you, and I repeat what I said earlier, if you have, if Daniel, you will consider that Emily's exiting the Cartel Heritage Company. That's one option. You agree with that? That's one. Then we move to the next level for her to retain the arms. That's agreeable. That's fine. That's good. The next element is the valuation, which you just heard. What's the valuation of the properties? Of course, you need to look at the valuation report, which I will ask them with their permission to extend it to you, so you can verify the figures. But so that's the second part of it. If you agree to this consideration of valuation, as it says, let me take it ballpark figures. So it means 6.7 million between, for the total value of property. And if you divide it into two, you get 3.35 million. If you minus the Cotswold from the whole equation is 1.5 million, and therefore she retains 1.85 million and we retain the balance, which is 3.35 plus 1.5, which makes it at 4.85 million pounds.
Well, if I may,
Yes.
first of all, I think it's a little surprising that you, as the first agenda, led down the first agenda as the maintenance of the relationship, and you surprisingly have all the figures figured out. But coming on to what you had offered, I would respectfully deny. I don't think I'm inclined towards entertaining that. However, my rejection class of course was very, you know, uh, I have very strong reasons to reject that. I would, unlike, I'm really sorry. Can I take it?
Sure.
So instead of getting an independent valuation done, a venture capital had approached me. They're based in London, and they had approached me and valued the entire company at 7.5 million pounds, which is much, much higher than your supposed valuation that you set down on the table. So, considering the fact that both of us exit out of this business, why don't you consider, why don't you give a full sale consideration? Just
Can I just put this into perspective for you so you can understand what your proposal is, so that the parties can understand where it comes from. If I put Emily's proposal on the table first. So if you go by Emily's proposal on the table, what is available is 6.7 million. You will, if it's a division of two, it's 3.35 million. If you take out 1.5 million from her share, she gets 1.85 million pounds. You will then retain 3.85 million plus the Cotswold. That's 3.85 million to you. Now, if I take your proposal, working dollars excess, eventually that will give 7.5 million. However, you only get 3.5 million short of 1,000 pounds. So, Emily, what is your thoughts on that?
Just, Mr. Mediator, what I'm not understanding is, even if I keep my part of the end, she can go ahead, Daniel can go ahead and sell the rest of it to the venture capital. I don't see why that is a problem for Daniel. All I'm asking for Daniel over here is to let me end the legacy that my father has built. I am ready to exchange all of my shares, sell them to you, a venture capital, private equity. I don't care anymore. I'll give it all to you just in exchange for half of the share that you want to put there. After that, what you want to do with it, whether you want to retain it, sell it, up to you. You will be the sole owner of all the three other properties. So I don't see why there's hesitation on your part to just give me my end. That's it. That's all I want. So I think I'm making a very bad offer over here. I'm not able to understand reasons for Daniel rejecting it.
I mean,
Sure, Daniel.
well, as what I get from your perspective is that you're willing to, buy your share out of this firm, which basically means that you're going to, have The sole reason I think I should just come clean now. The sole reason that I am not giving, I thought that I would consider your offer, but I respectfully denied was because, as you know, the issue of transparency that you had pointed out, I believe that you're aware of the fact that I did make a couple of bad business decisions. And I really hope that you, instead of judging me, understand, being my sister, that this is something that's very common in the business. But considering this venture particularly, always had best interest in my heart. And my sole basis for rejecting the offer was because I want to liquidify my assets in order to pay off my personal debts. So I think I really wanted that to just come to the table.
I understand where Emily is coming from earlier, when she explained itself is it an option for your venture capitalist to actually consider acquiring the entire business without the Alps? That's what I think you were trying to mention.
Yes.
Right, correct? So if that's an option you can consider, perhaps you can move forward just a better of reducing the value of the venture capitalist offer, and let's see whether you can agree to that.
So I'm not sure I want to be able to ask that. Obviously, I'll have to take it out with them. It's not something that I'm working on. I believe when they proposed an offer of 7.5 million pounds, they were talking about the entirety of the business, which includes all four properties.
So, you know, what Daniel just disclosed is quite shocking to me. I mean, I wish you would have just told me this in person, Aaron. After all, I have a sister, and I don't understand why you would ever think that I would judge something like this. I think it's best that I get some time to gather my thoughts, because this is quite shocking to me. Mr. Mediator, if it's possible for another private meeting, it can be very brief. Couple of other pointers that I may discuss with you, which could help both of us situations over here.
So moving back to what questions are on, you've just heard Daniel's position, financial positions and all that, and you want to take a time to consider that as well.
Absolutely.
Is that okay with you? Because usually I end the sessions at this stage, but if you give me an opportunity, perhaps I can come back later and see whether we have a solution to the matter.
I think even I'll have my thoughts articulated in a better manner by then.
All right. We are still good for time, so if you could just give me 5 minutes, 10, and then we'll get back in a while. Thank you.
I'm also giving them this is again confidential.
Absolutely. Unless you think that share with anybody, it continues to remain confidential.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So I think what Daniel just really, I don't know what to say. In fact, if you just told me this sooner, perhaps we would have to reach you in the first place. Now I understand why you talk about the numbers in so much depth. However, that doesn't change the fact that I still don't want to get rid of the idea of me owning the earth completely. I think I have made up my mind, in fact, that I want to be the earth no matter what. Since Daniel seems still very on going or exiting or wanting to sell the business, I think a very valid proposal. I'm letting go of all of the questions just for that one property wherein Daniel presented. So, in fact, I am not even demanding for a 50-50 split. I'm very sure that the offer that he had received, which I was completely unaware of, shouldn't be too bad despite one property going on. And I'm very, very certain that he can still sell that off and liquidate the assets if he has to, or if that's what he wants to, without much of a problem. Again, I don't know to what extent he's in debt with, but I don't know. What do you think of it, James?
Ms. Mediator, anything we discuss over there will remain highly confidential. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just had an idea. Mr. Daniel revealed his reason as to why he cannot agree to a sale was that it's a debt. So the valuation he gave us was 7.5 million pounds for the entirety of the assets. That means he will end up getting around 3.5 to 3.7 million per person. After being divided into two, we were offering him 3.25 million. However, if we don't decide to disclose to him that we did receive an offer for the French properties, which amounts to a total of 4.2 million pounds, then we won't have to part with the elm or the properties in the England, and his reasons for the debt would also be solved, and that could, and then perhaps you both could have an equal share in the England property, and you could exit the elm property. This would aid you in building future relations as well, solving your disputes, and this would also get Mr. Daniel out of the debt.
Is this something you would like to consider?
I think,
Emily?
no,
You see what your counsel is suggesting is that now that they propose of the sale of the two French properties in Provence and Bordeaux at 4.2 million, okay, 2.1 each, 4.2, and that's about 7.5 million usually. Otherwise, if it's sold to the venture capitalists, it's 7.5 million for the total, and you retain two properties in the UK, one of the Elms and the other one at South, was it in Southern? Devon.
I think, actually, I wish I didn't have to come to me firsthand. I think at this point, that seems like the most viable option for me. Thanks, Jay. I think something that I didn't consider. Even if it's all of our problems.
Right.
Just for the sake of clarification, we have said, what I have suggested is that the entirety of the 4.2 million goes to Daniel, or perhaps you could ask him as to how much is needed for him to clear his debt, and the remaining amount could, perhaps go to my client or be divided into two. However, the discussions in that could be taken up in the joint session if we have the time.
Sure. What I'm thinking about is since if you go through this option, am I allowed to make a proposal to him that there is you have an offer for sale of the two properties in France at 4.2 million?
Can you just disclose to them that you also have been approached? Maybe it'd be better off that I tell them the numbers. I don't want him to think that I'm trying to convey every single thing to you and avoid talking to him about these issues.
Absolutely, but you see, one of the issues that we raised with me just now was to inquire into his liabilities. So I need to have a private caucus with him to ascertain what his liabilities and whether he's prepared to make that disclosure.
Right.
If it's not, then I'm not going to be able to relate that matter to you later on. So if that's not a material consideration of what his liabilities are, then perhaps I can then call them in and you all can make that proposal to him. And then we can move on from here and see whether it's acceptable to him.
I think that would work perfectly.
That's right. Now, I have a thought here, which I don't know whether you want to consider. In what is that if you're going to offer the 4.2 million to him, complete absence from your interest in that two properties, and you want to retain the elm?
If that is the case, then if I am going to part away with both the properties in France, I think this discussion completely changes things.
All right.
So the properties in the UK, and I think we could continue sharing that if that's something that he's amenable. If he does end up wanting to sell that again, maybe he would set up those shares, but I would want to remain the elms as well as the half that is in the other property.
Right. That's why I'm asking whether you want to retain both or you want to split both in the sense that you get the elms and he gets 7. I don't know. So you've done a valuation of both. That one is of course slightly lower in value, which yours is 1.5 and his 1, and that one is 1 million. Or you want to retain both in case both still continue to hold shares in that into two properties.
Right.
To the company. So which is the option which you want to think about?
I think how about I'm happy if you go ahead and disclose that we have the 4.2 million.
All right, so I made that disclosure that, so we dispose of the two properties
Yes.
and retain the company
Yes.
and retain the two
No,
companies.
not the company. I just want you to make that offer and I'd like to see how they respond to it myself. That's okay.
Sure, but what happens to the accounts and the
Hence, I'm very adamant of what I want.
All right, so you want to keep the Elms and the Devon as well at this time juncture.
Yes.
Move on with the sale of the Providence property as well.
If that will help dissolve and get rid of the liabilities, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, that's all. Nice. I should
Should
think.
we exit the room?
Do you want to do? I thought you were to make the disclosure directly.
That's all right.
That's fine.
That's all right.
All right, so let's have a little session. Two parties. Right? Thank you, Daniel and Abhi, for being patient with us. Yes, Emily is taken aback by the fact that she was not aware of her financial difficulties. So she's realized financial difficulties. She has reached the position. So I allow Emily to express her support teams, her counsel, to express what we now have in mind so that find financially they can assist you. All right. So this is what we call stability support. All right. Let's see how it works out. Right.
I think now that I've had the open and listening to past weeks, I would tell that there was a very good rush even there, which is based off in Switzerland, who would come to me privately and they put an offer of about $4.2 million for the properties that we have in France. Both those properties together, they really take good of $4.2 million. As James very rightly pointed out, even if we go ahead with the offer that you had suggested, the English company had given to you, like to back in case of things. Since we own 50% of it, we sold a lot of it entirely to them, we would still be getting much just lesser than 2.2 million. So instead of going with that, if we can just go with the deal that Switzerland company is suggesting, and there's just two properties instead of all four of them, at a 4.2 million pounds, it could very much help me to go ahead with the curriculum of leasing without having to sell all four properties. Because in that sense, I feel like English venture capital has kind of undervalued the properties. Is there anything else that I'm missing out on views?
So what my client is just trying to say is that we sell our French properties for a total of 4.2 million pounds. My client would not be taking, the amount that will be, when we receive 4.2 million pounds, you could use it to absolve yourself of any liability that you have incurred. You said that you have a private debt. And the amount that is left after that could perhaps be split between you. If there's any amount left, could be given to my client. However, if we do that, my client would like to retain the L and would also want you to work with my client in the second property in England. Is that something you would be amenable to? Because I believe this offer would absolve you of all the liabilities, and as you pointed out, that was the only reason you rejected our earlier offer.
So putting it in a nutshell, the two properties in France sold at 4.2 million. And as far as Emily's concerned, she doesn't want to share a reply of it. She's giving it to you to help you absolve your debts. That's number one. Number two, the two remaining properties in England are retained in the company and continues to be managed through the company.
Provided that I get full retainership and ownership of the album.
So what she wants is that so far as the arms is concerned, she retains full ownership of the arms.
Absolutely. Well, just to clarify what I put on the table earlier, it's, although I understand that I might be on a financial crunch right now, I want to clarify that I'm not desperate. So clearly, the offer that you just proposed was, it's putting you on a pedestal. So I believe that if I now we have, I would like to request a caucus, immediate, just for 5 minutes, if that's okay.
Sure. Just making, yeah, sure. I'm just cautious about time. Can I just have a moment with Daniel and council? Thank you. Thank you, Daniel, and Harvey for being able to consider their proposals. I know you've got something else in mind, but rest assured, whatever's discussed, unless you allow me to speak to them and address it to them, then I will bring it up to them. Otherwise, it remains here. So may I know what is it that you have proposed?
So I think it was a wrong decision to bring the financial constraint in front of them, and I really regret it. But I think now I see a clearer picture that somebody who just pretends to stress about emotions, she obviously, in a sense of reality, she does not actually care about the sentiments that are attached. She obviously was simultaneously what I was suspecting basically got confirmed right now. So although I understand that I should not have brought my financial constraints up, I also clarified that I'm not desperate, for it per se. So I think if you could just help me, I couldn't really get where they were coming from. If you could just help me get the numbers right.
I think, as far as I understood from what Emily was mentioning just now, is that she was open about it. She was concerned about your financial position. So perhaps you can let me know what your financial liabilities are, and perhaps we can take it from here.
So I would.
As it has been mentioned by them, just to clarify, just tell you now, they want us to manage the property and it runs. The hotel that they have approached by Switzerland, they want us to manage the two properties there. She's ready to give us back the properties to my family, right?
What she's proposing is that the sale of the two properties in France, there's a one better words, a ready buyer who intends to purchase these two properties at 4.2 million. So that will be now available to you to absolve you from your liabilities, of personal financial liabilities. That's what you're saying. That has to be worked out because it's a company funds, and that has to be worked out how it comes back to you to help you with your finances. So that's what she's offering. So that the remaining two properties in England, the arms, she wants absolute control over, wants absolute rights to it, and that big comes out of the equation. So the only remaining property that needs to be dealt to the two of you is the Devon property. So that's how it's going to work out. So now that you mentioned that you're not absolutely desperate, my query to you is, what is your financial liability? So we can work it out and see how we can, and see how it will assist you in this entire transaction.
So instead of going about it that way, can I just propose something, right, real quick? I believe that what she basically is concerned about the elm, right? And obviously the emotions that are attached to it. So what I am proposing is that we sell all the two properties that are located in France, along with the property apart from Elms that's located in the southern part of England. And then we have a joint ownership over the elm. And maybe we can basically divide our responsibility in a more strategic manner and maybe have
From what I understand from Emily clearly, she mentioned that she wants absolute control over the elms. So in other words, she wants an exit plan over entire other properties. She's prepared to do that. She said that from the very beginning. So if you are going to propose joint interest in elms, I don't know whether that's going to move forward or going to regress. So you have to think very carefully where she's coming from. She's made it very clear what she intends and what she wants. So it's for you to decide whether or not you want me to make that proposal to you, or I don't know whether it's going to go forward or backwards, because she has made it very clear where she stands on the Alps.
Right. So could you please confirm the amounts of the properties that they had valued apart from the elm, including the
Sure. On the Elms is 1.5 million. On the Devon, it's 1.1 million. On the Provence is 2.1 million. On the Dodon is 2.1 million, giving the total of 6.7 million. Okay.
As we can see, there are a lot of numbers on the table.
Indeed, it is. Sure. Absolutely. Yes, Daniel.
far as the offer as regards to the property situated in France are concerned, I would be willing to accept that. I think I'd be willing to sell the properties and then thereafter divide the proceeds of sale amongst each other in a 50-50 percentage. But now, as regards to the property situated in the southern India, that is Cotswold and Devon, I feel that maybe if we could work something out, maybe continuing this venture, maybe dividing our responsibilities in a much better way. In such a way, she gets to preserve her emotional aspects towards that are attributed towards the.
Mhm. As I mentioned, I think you heard what Emily's position was on the Elms. Like I said, I can take it back to her and ask her whether she's prepared to have you on the board on the Elms or otherwise, because she's wants absolute control over the Elms. So she's prepared to give up the two properties in France, open to you. Maybe you're not cash you're interested in continuing business over the properties in Devon and also with Elms. I can look at her and see what she says about it. That's your proposal. The rest we prepared to have because she had absolutely because if you want to go into the business of which is the first part of the agenda, then we have to work out the difference between the parties. So that's going to be emotional elements as well. So we so I would like to hear you on why you want to continue with the Elms and Devon properties. That's now, so that at least I can take it back to her and see where you're coming from all this.
So simply because as she said that since she has emotions attached to the line, and I don't think I'm willing to give her the ownership of entire property because as already pointed out again in the session that I shouldn't have, which I shouldn't have, but I am in a financial crunch and I if we allow me to do this, I feel the offer that I just presented would be the only way for me to move forward with this, or else. I just see a common.
Sure. I will get to that, but will not wait for you to continue to manage your own properties together with very many differences at this stage. Perhaps if you let me know the reasons and I can give you information, maybe that otherwise I will just take back to her as per just now.
So I'm sorry, please just one of the properties, 1.1, what's the value there? What amount is the L evaluated?
L value at the time of this 1.5 Cotswold, 1 million for your 2.1 million for your Concord, and 2.1 million for your yes. So that is what you're looking at. We can get, but if you, her offer was to give up the 2 properties in Provence and absolutely retaining absolute rights to Elms, and therefore that is what we shared between the 2 of you.
I think it would be fair that if she did and contributed to other property that way, be able to do a part of the business.
Right. So can I rehash the entire proposals now? So you agree to sell the 2 properties in Provence at 4.2 million. You agree that she retains the house, and for you to retain capital.
Right.
Okay. All right. So, okay. If you don't mind, then I need to go back to her with a private caucus so that I can. So this is what I can convey to her. Absolutely, from your side, you're clear about it. Okay, great. So then I will sit that and see whether we have a consensus on the matter.
But just to be clear that this result in the brand name relation society.
That's right. If you change the dissolution of the company, the division of properties will be in this manner. That's what you want.
I'm just clarification.
All right. So because as far as I understand, it will involve the dissolution of the company. The division of the properties will be in this manner. 2 properties in France to be sold, Elms to be retained by her, Devon will be retained by you. Am I correct? Okay. I'm putting it in a nutshell because the company matter needs to go through the process later on. But this is in essence what you agree to.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I will just take a moment and I'll make them aware. Thank you. If you could just adjourn for a moment, I'll call you back. Thank you. Thank you for a moment. This is what is now been offered part of Daniel. All right. I'm not going to the gist of everything. I'm coming straight to the gist of what they've proposed now. Now, they have agreed to the sale of the 2 properties. All right. They've agreed to the sale of the 2 properties at 4.2 million. And Elms will be retained by you. Devon will be rented with them. And then dissolution of the company. Is that something which you
I was actually hoping to understand exactly what that was. That could be sort of told to us. We'll be able to figure out whether the 4.2 will be getting anything.
That is what I understand from that is they told only that they sell the property for the 50-57 basis. That is what they are proposing to do. So that's their offer. Okay, let me rephrase it. I think how we work out this is what is the vision of the company. As far as the 2 properties in France is concerned, that will be sold as the group. The proceeds of the sale will be that is what is offered just now. Now the second and on the Elms is what you will retain and the others will retain.
Understood. James, what do you think?
I believe we should accept it because getting one last getting the ends.
I think I trust the better judgment of my
Okay.
counsel. I will accept the offer in that case.
Right. In that case, let me invite them back into the room, and I will finalize this hopefully without any inhibitions now. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, Howie as well. Now, I will make that offer to Emily. We see what we offer just now. Let's start with what the solution company, in which case the four properties that the comprise the company, the two properties in France sold at a scale value of 2 million divided by equally into 2 of the properties of sale. Elms will be retained by Annie, and that will be retained by you. Am I correct? That's the proposal we have. And Emily, you accept the proposal? Wonderful. So that is how we conclude this mediation. The mediation we have observed of this nature, and this both parties have agreed by mutual consent on the other. We will agree to the decision of the company. The property, two properties in France, in Provence and Bordeaux, valued at 4.2 million, be sold at the proceeds of sale is divided into the company processes, 50% each to each Emily and to the Daniel. The elms will be retained by Emily, which means the company will transfer the property to Emily, whereas the Daniel property will be retained and to Daniel, in which case the company will transfer the property to Daniel. So there's nothing else. Is there?
The element
That's and equally the Daniel will completely transfer to Daniel. Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Lance, we have a concluded mediation. Thank you. In the presence of the council, and they are not happy with the signing the mediation agreement. Together with the council, and as the witness, I will sign on both signatures. Great. Thank you very much for being very wonderful artist. Like I said, very with differences of things together, and cannot create and will achieve that. I'm obliged by your representations, I'm obliged by see, and I'm obliged by how you handle the entire mediation process amicably. Go forth. We hope that this transaction will continue to bear fruit, so that it doesn't have to be really taken on any form whatsoever. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mediator. I'm very, very grateful. And just to end Daniel down on the business out of the way, I'll actually invite you to the dinner table and hopefully talk about anything but business for the first time in a very, very long time. Yes, I would love to, and also just put forth, I think I always consider myself a great businessman, but I think I lost. So I wouldn't say exactly lost, but yes, I think you really are the smarter one. But yeah, that being said, I hope that doesn't strain on our personal relationship when I saw it. No.
Great, thank you very much for your support, and I hear that you have concluded this matter. So with a handshake, I would hope this finalizes everything else as well. Thank you. To the council, wonderful job. Thank you for assisting the whole process.
Thank you, Mr. Mediator, for guiding us through this process and with such fairness and patience. On behalf of my client, Daniel Carter, I would like to extend our appreciation to both you and to Emily and her representative for engaging in this session in good faith. Thank you so much.
I'd also like to thank everyone for being present here today. Mr. Mediator, you have been a great facilitator, and without you, I feel we would not have been able to come to reach this conclusion in such a smooth manner. Mr. Carter and Mr. Spector, I would like to thank you both for being present here today. I believe we had a constructive dialogue in today's session, and I believe it was fruitful in its own way as we have reached this settlement. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Everybody. Okay, so I conclude the mediation. process and the agreements will be finalized. And thank you once again. And have a good that's what it means of it.
All right, thank you. And with that, we conclude that session. This week, Miss I included great us. Here, participant, you are invited to join us for the closing ceremony in our club 7 p.m. There is 3 you there, with 4 words, closing ceremony.
You've stopped it, all right? You've stopped it, yes? This one's just. Oh, they've stopped it. Right. Right.
You don't actually ask me which way.
So, as the communication starts, the is only used for the
Yeah, and then we.
Yeah.
What's that? It's the media controls or the media controls and that.
Yeah.
Understand what you mean by that now.
Yeah, now we go. It is control. It's literally still there because you know, like when she things like that. This is just an idea that they do and all that. And then you want to be emotional. You know, yeah, because you lose track. You literally try to see. I was thinking don't stop. I'm getting excited. I'm getting the facts. Because you have noticed, I didn't start, private officer until you write it.
Absolutely.
Confidential. The back of my head, just my body, guys, still confidential. And of course, what part of it, of course. It's a habit, so, but you have to know about the hotline. Was good. Hope you enjoyed it as well. Very nice. So, hear them from outside. It's a lot of confidential.
You could work with like